effective conservation and management depend on reliable long-term data. However, traditional field surveys can be costly, time-consuming, and difficult to sustain over large areas. As a result, many regions lack consistent long-term data monitoring. And to help close these gaps, alternative complementary data sources are needed. In fact, several studies have shown that citizen science offer a practical way to support long-term environmental monitoring. And this has been evidenced through emergency response as well as biodiversity conservation. In Africa, there's a growing interest in using citizen science, especially for research and environmental management, as well as understanding the barrier, benefit, and challenges. While the potential of citizen science remains largely untapped in many taxonomies, there's a growing mass collection of citizen science data on African birds. So this has been demonstrated in countries such as South Africa, Nigeria, and Kenya through different initiatives. And in South Africa, we have like Suburb. I believe right now that in Suburb 2, they started with Suburb 1, South African Bird Atlas 1, and now they have moved to phase 2 or project 2, I believe. And if I missed that, I stand to be corrected. Nigeria and Kenya are in the same latitude, almost same time when this project started. Nigeria have the NIBAB, while Kenya, we have Kenya Bird Map, which is also a citizen science initiative. So with the exception of South Africa, a large proportion of this data have not been fully utilized. And this can be primarily attributed to two factors. One is that we lack some expertise in Africa in analyzing this unstructured nature of citizen science data, as well as because the methodological differences. So in Africa, especially Kenya and Nigeria that have worked with their data, we use pentards. So pentards, they are grid system that I'll be talking about a little bit later for generic data collection. While in other parts that they use citizen science data as well, such as breeding bird survey, they use point-based approach, which is, really easy to analyze and model. So these methodological differences complicate data analysis and require specialized capacity. Additionally, there's often a failure to frame research questions that can be answered by the available data. So we have the data, but if we can't really come up with the right question, it becomes a little bit challenging to come up with a question that particular data that we have, especially from pentad, can answer some sciences that are hidden. So Kenya Bird Map is a leading citizen science initiative that provides reliable data on bird distribution and relative abundance across Kenya. It was established in 2013 and hosted at National Museums of Kenya, Nairobi headquarters. So it engages volunteers from all walks of life, both experienced and unexperienced, birders, photographers, tour guides. It welcomes citizens and non-citizens, whereby they go out after they have the app, they go out, they observe, identify, and record that information. So despite its successful in recruiting volunteer and building a large data sets over more than a decade, Kenya Bird Map has yet to generate a comprehensive scientific output. Its rich data remain largely unanalyzed and unpublished, which provide a gray area and unique opportunities for further research and practical application. So it was through this that we thought it would be nice to come up with a question that this particular data can answer based on those two gaps that it had. So it has never produced a comprehensive scientific results, and that data has never been analyzed and published. So for the first time, this study has utilized KBM data to predict the abundance and distribution of bustards, storks, and harrier. These species depend on grassland ecosystem, which make them particularly vulnerable to habitat change. So our aim was to use KBM data to understand the spatial distribution pattern and abundance of bustards, storks, and harrier across Kenya. So we expected that the KBM extensive spatial coverage and long-term data will provide valuable perspectives into the distribution pattern of these species. So specifically, we aim to identify key landscape features that influence the occurrence and distribution of these focal species. So to test our prediction, we identified 3 savanna areas. So we tested this prediction using like Laikipia County, Nairobi National Park, as well as Masai Mara. So these 3 regions, which formed our study area, differ in their management regime. So Laikipia is mostly community managed with a little bit of pastoralist influence, while Nairobi National Park is an urban wild interface with the full management by the Kenyan government. While Masai Mara, I would say, is an hybrid, whereby the county government has some level of management as well as the community. So it's like a gradient, whereby it's fully community-based and government, and then government fully. So we thought that that will give us like a really dynamic way of understanding, how these particular land cover types embedded in this region influence the 3 focal species of our interest. And now I want to walk you through our methodology. So we extracted our data from Kenya BirdMap website using a full protocol card record. So we only used pentards with more than 4 card submission to enhance data reliability and reproducibility. So more than 4 card submission using Kenya BirdMap protocol, we identify these pentards using the colors. So pink and red indicates pentards that have more than 4 cards. So it's 4 and above, 4 to 100, 2,000. So long as it hits the 4, then that color started to change from pink to red to symbolize the intensity of how many cards have been reported in that particular pentard using full protocol. While the orange and the yellow and the white and gray, those are pentards with less than 4 cards. So there'll be 3 down to 0. And then the proportion of these cards were used as the relative index for abundance in our analysis. So like Ruaka, Uthiru, Kibera, Ngong or Ongata Rongai, and Nairobi National Park, those particular pentards had more than 4 cards submission. But the rest of these other grids had less than 4. So this is just an overview of how full protocol cards with more than 4 card submission record looks like. So very quickly, just to demonstrate how a pentard looks like. So this is how a pentard looks like. It's a 9x9 grid system whereby an observer gets into that grid, and they observe, identify, record, and submit their cards. So the pin that you see, the yellow and the red, those are those particular points where they entered that particular species that they observed. So once they have done that, then they submit their card, or what we call a list, to the KBM server, whereby this particular card submission can either be submitted full protocol or ad hoc protocol. So the full protocol is whereby an observer spends at least 2 hours doing active birding and up to 5 days. Whereas ad hoc is whereby they spend less than 2 hours. Hypothetically, maybe, you know, they were just driving across a particular area and they saw a bird of interest, or they just want to record. So they are really not doing active birding, but that particular information that they submit is also helpful to us as scientists. So Kenya Bird Map and citizen science, especially in Africa, has done really well. They managed to specially distribute pentards across, like in Kenya here, they have distributed the pentards across Kenya. So even the white, where we don't see any pentard, they are pentards. It's only that observation have never been made and submitted. So the entire Kenya has been distributed with the pentards. And now I want to walk you through the explanatory variables, the land composition and configuration that we used to analyze this data in order to meet our objective of predicting the abundance and distribution of our focus species. So what we did here, we used Sentinel imagery for 2013 to extract land cover variables. And we adopted a methodology that we earlier developed, and I encourage you guys to go back and check our previous work, which we published earlier this year, where we developed a methodology of analyzing land cover types using Google Earth Engine. So we used that methodology, modify it, scale it up, and use Sentinel B imagery, which is a 10 by 10 meters, so it has really high resolution in Google Earth Engine to map, analyze, and extract explanatory variables. So we extracted Sentinel-2, as I said, for December 2023. That's the window within which we collected response variable, which are the bird data. And then we applied region of interest for the 3 regions we clipped, and created shapefiles for Masai Mara, Nairobi National Park, and Laikipia, and used those boundaries as region of interest. And to filter the noise, we used 5% scene to make sure that we really have fine land cover variables without any cloud that will provide noise. And then we applied correlation and regression tree algorithm to apply for the entire landscape to enhance land cover classification. Thereafter, our data was split into 70% for training and 30% for testing. And we also tested our classification accuracy using several methods. Among them was independent validation and ground truth, as well as previous published data. So we were really confident that our classification algorithm was at least 95% accurate. So after doing those preliminary methodology, we went a little bit in to do our statistical analysis, and I'm not gonna take you through what we really did, because it was really complex yet simple. So again, I encourage you to read this paper, see how we developed this methodology, which were really simple and complex, and they can be reproduced wherever you want. So basically what we did here, we used a linear mixed model to predict the distribution and abundance of the three species in three regions. So abundance was represented as the observed bird response in that particular study region, while the intercept represented the baseline abundance when all the predictors are at their mean value. So we center them and scale them to reduce the deviation. Specifically for each bird group, that means that the abundance in the study area is predicted based on the average value of that particular land cover types. And I'll walk you through this. But we considered this predictor to be significant if the p-value was less than 0.05. And now, just to take you through our results, which I'll spend a considerable amount of time to understand how, how the results is. So between 2023 and 2013, rather, and 2023, we managed to extract 50,717 records belonging to 16 species that were reported across the three study regions. So among these three groups, bustard, harrier, and storks, bustard had 20,497 records, and stork, harrier rather, had 7,427 records, and stork had 22,792. Comparing region-wise, Masai Mara had the highest number of records, of a total record of 25,800, while Nairobi National Park had the least with 5,300 records. The three regions had a cumulative of 16 species with 15 species each. So the distribution of these species varied across region, with some being unique to those specific regions. So for example, buff-crested bustard was only identified in Laikipia, but was never recorded in Masai Mara and Nairobi National Park within this window that we collected this data. Equally, woolly-necked stork was never reported in Laikipia, but was reported in Masai Mara and Nairobi National Park. So these two species uniquely represented the ecological differences in these particular regions. So from the bustard, harrier, and stork, in total, there were 16. But if you remove one species from each, you find that each region had 15 species. So the highest single species recorded by region included white-bellied bustard and Kori bustard in Laikipia, marabou stork and yellow-billed stork in Nairobi National Park, and marabou stork and yellow-billed stork in Nairobi National Park. So the species with the least record by region were African marsh harrier and Hartlab's bustard in Laikipia County, Western marsh harrier and African marsh harrier in Masai Mara, and Western marsh harrier and African marsh harrier and woolly-necked stork in Nairobi, rather. So in terms of pentards, the three regions had a different number of pentards. Laikipia had the highest with 20 pentards, followed by Masai Mara 19 and Nairobi National Park 3. So in addition to classification results from Google Earth Engine, the three regions had special coverage representing different land cover types. So like, for example, Nairobi National Park, we can clearly see that it's predominantly having a lot of shrubs, while Laikipia and Masai Mara have variation in the land cover classes of which were of our interest. So in terms of our analysis, our regression results indicated that bustard responded positively to patch density with a mean estimate of 23, and negatively responded to woodland and shrubland. The storks indicated a positive response to grassland and woodland, while harrier indicated a negative response to woodland. And with that, I would like to walk you through our discussion. So we used KBM data to analyze the spatial and temporal pattern of abundance and distribution of these three focal species across Kenya. And our result demonstrated the value of citizen science data in predicting species distribution and highlights the specific land cover types influencing these birds. So these studies has identified the key ecological zones supporting these species and quantified the effect of land cover composition and configuration on the abundance and distribution, as I earlier said. And as we noted earlier, the buff-crested bustard was found exclusively in Laikipia County, while the woolly-necked stork was recorded only in Nairobi National Park and Masai Mara. So this pattern reflects a distinct ecological variation and the differences in habitat preferences. So we also found that, excuse me, the mosaic landscape benefit bustards, while woodland and shrubland impact bustard distribution and abundance. And our results are also confirmed with other studies, such as those that Garcia did, and they also found that diverse patch land cover types support fragmented little bustard. So these our results, now that they are in agreement with other studies that were done somewhere else, we were really confident that applying citizen science data can equally give us some scientific grounded results that are defensible. So our results shows that the positive response of bustard to higher patch density created by variability in foraging and nesting conditions. And in fact, there are some hypotheses that have also supported this, like landscape fragmentation hypothesis by Dunning and Tuna also indicated that species are influenced by interdispersion and configuration. So that's exactly what we are seeing with the bustard here. But intensive grazing and pasture conversion, we found that can reduce their nesting site, limit their foraging areas, and increase disturbance, because these are grassland specialists. So any form of disturbance really has significant effect on their well-being. And with the grazing, they can stumble on their eggs, or just that little disturbance, or even pasture conversion can results to affecting the grassland structural integrity. So in terms of stock, we found that there were some variable responses to land cover, which highlights that the current landscape are not optimal for storks. And we also found that storks prefer open habitat for prey visibility, being that, they're big bird species. They prefer having a clear visual so that they can see their prey, while dense shrub limit their visibility and movement. So they can hit this other, obstruction, which can impair their daily movement. And grassland and woodland also provide critical foraging areas, water sources, and nesting. And this also has been documented in other studies. So we were really confident that the results that we got from citizen science data are in agreement with the really point count data that has been done somewhere else. And in terms of harrier, we found a negative response to woodland due to reduced prey availability, such as rats, moles, and voles, caused by changes in vegetation structure. We also found that fragmentation from land use change can further disrupt prey population and reduce habitat connectivity. And with that, I would like to conclude by saying that our study is the first to highlight the potential of combining KBM data with other ecological data set to deepen understanding of bird communities and their response to change. So KBM data, through its spatial coverage and long-term monitoring, has really enabled us to understand and believe that it's a powerful tool for exploring a complex ecological relationship and setting clear conservation priorities. And therefore, we encourage that moving forward, integrating KBM data with environmental variable can advance evidence-based conservation and help safeguard avian biodiversity, both locally and globally. And therefore, we encourage researchers and practitioners to have that continued collaboration so that this data that has been collected by citizens can be very fundamental in addressing ecological and challenges that can support sustainable management. And finally, I would like to acknowledge Tropical Biology Association for the financial support that they granted us, as well as the WIN Initiative, Rocha Kenya, National Museums of Kenya, Kenya Bird Map that allowed us to use this data, as well as my university for giving me all this expertise and this ecological curiosity to come up with such kind of questions that are answerable using citizen science data. And finally, I would also like to thank all citizen scientists who went out of their way to collect this data. It was through their effort that made this study feasible. Without their effort to collect this data, we could have not analyzed it. Our work was just to take that data and convert it in a form that can be easily synthesized. With that, I welcome questions.